79% of hardcore baseball fans now support a salary cap. Owners know that number. They built it on purpose. They used your anger at the Dodgers to shift the blame to them instead of themselves. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly how they did it and why it has nothing to do with your team getting better. I am an active MLB player, and what I am about to tell you is something ownership does not want talked about openly. Here is what an MLB owner actually said when Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers. A high-ranking team official told ESPN's Jeff Passan on record they are ready to burn the effing house down. Their words, not mine. Ready to cancel the 2027 season. Ready to blow up the greatest momentum baseball has had in a generation. And 50% of fans said they would be willing to lose that season if it meant getting a cap. Think about what that means. Owners made half of baseball's own fans willing to blow up the sport they love. That is not an accident. That is a strategy, and it started the moment Tucker signed with the Dodgers. When that news dropped, players did not react the way you might think. We heard it like everyone else. But within about 5 minutes, every player in baseball knew exactly what was going to happen next. Owners had their new headline, their new Exhibit A, another Dodgers signing to point at: Ohtani, Yamamoto, Snell, Tanner Scott, Edwin Diaz, Tucker. Every single one cataloged, every single one saved for this moment. And sure enough, here we are. But before I show you what this fight is actually about, I need you to understand something that owners are counting on you not knowing. Their franchise valuations are not growing as fast as their billionaire peers in other sports. They want two things: more predictable guaranteed income and bigger valuations. A salary cap delivers both. It has nothing to do with your team getting better. That is the whole game, and they need your anger at the Dodgers to run it. So let's start with the promise they are making you. A salary cap creates parity. More teams competing. Anyone can win. Your team finally gets a shot. Sounds great. Except a sport with no salary cap just delivered the most competitive era in its history, and the sport held up as the gold standard of parity. The NFL has had the AFC Championship owned by either the Patriots or the Chiefs for 15 consecutive years. 15 years. Under a hard salary cap. The Chiefs appeared in 7 straight AFC Championship games. Before them, the Patriots made 8 straight. The Chiefs just became the first team in NFL history to win back-to-back Super Bowls and return to the Super Bowl a 3rd straight year. Under a hard cap. Now here's what baseball has produced without one. The Rangers won it in 2023. The Diamondbacks made it to the World Series as a wild card that same year. The Blue Jays pushed the Dodgers to 7 games last fall in what may have been the best World Series anyone has ever seen. The Brewers, the smallest market in baseball, had the most wins in the entire sport in 2025. Different champions, wild card chaos and excitement, small markets competing at the highest level, record attendance, younger fans. The sport is not broken. The sport is beyond thriving. And owners want you to believe otherwise, so you hand them the one thing that makes them even richer. Now here's the part of this conversation that nobody is having, and this is where it gets really interesting. If owners actually wanted competitive balance, there are already mechanisms in place to create it, mechanisms that are working right now that they could strengthen tomorrow without touching a single player contract. The luxury tax generated a record $402 million in 2025. A portion of that goes specifically to teams that are growing their revenue and paid attendance. Teams that actually invest in competing get rewarded. That mechanism already exists. Owners could strengthen it dramatically, tie revenue sharing directly to payroll investment, increase draft penalties for chronic low spenders, make cheap owners actually answer for pocketing revenue sharing money without putting it back into competing. None of that requires a salary cap. The fact that owners are not proposing any of these alternatives and going straight to a cap tells you everything about what this is actually about. And speaking of what this is actually about, let me give you the number that should end this entire conversation. Between 2022 and 2024, the Pittsburgh Pirates made $215 million in net ticket and concession revenues. In those same 3 seasons, their total player payroll was $214 million. The Pittsburgh Pirates made more money selling you tickets and hot dogs than they spent on the players you bought those tickets to watch. In 2024 alone, they generated $326 million in revenue and spent $84 million on players. 26 cents of every dollar back into the roster. A salary cap does not fix that owner. It just punishes the teams actually trying to win. Now here's what fans do not understand about how a cap actually changes things for players. And this directly affects you as a fan. Players are not divided on this, not even close, because here is what owners will not say out loud. Teams under a cap still commit their biggest money to their best players. What actually changes is the middle class disappears. The proven veterans who are not stars, those contracts get cut first every single time. Guys who performed well and did their jobs, gone because of a spreadsheet. Players fought hard in the last CBA to raise the minimums because protecting players at every level of the roster matters to the whole union. A cap does not solve that. It just moves the financial squeeze somewhere else. And here is something else owners definitely do not want you to know. Under the current system, every player contract in baseball is fully guaranteed, every dollar. From the first day to the last, your team can have a terrible season. The owner can make terrible decisions. It does not matter. Players get paid what they signed for, period. In cap leagues, that security disappears. Players become line items on a budget. In the NBA last season, players had money withheld from every single paycheck and held in escrow. When revenue came in short, they collectively lost nearly $500 million. Now ask yourself, in a world where players absorb the financial risk when revenue dips, what is the owner's incentive to grow the sport? Their downside disappears. The players carry it, and you are left with an ownership class that has even less reason to invest in making what you watch worth watching. So let me ask you something directly. If a cap does not create parity, and the data proves the NFL is dominated by the same teams year after year, and if the real reason owners want a cap is to raise franchise values and limit what players can earn, what exactly are you voting for when you support one? You are voting to hand billionaires a mechanism that makes them richer. You are voting to help them shift blame from themselves to the players and to the Dodgers. And you are voting to do it in the middle of the greatest era baseball has had in a generation. Players looked at each other when the burn the house down news dropped and said the same thing. We aren't going to accept a salary cap. It does not matter what they do or how long they hold out. We want to play baseball. We are prepared, we are unified, and we are ready to keep the unprecedented momentum this sport has going, with systems that incentivize winning and reward the owners who actually go all out for it. Not a cap that lets the one saying good enough is good enough off the hook forever. Because that is what this is really about, not the Dodgers, not competitive balance, whether owners who choose not to compete ever face a real consequence for that choice. Right now they do not. A salary cap will not change that. It will just make them richer. The CBA expires December 1st. This fight is happening right now in real time. When it goes fully public, you are going to hear a lot of noise from both sides. Owners talking about fairness, players talking about greed, media picking sides. Remember this video because an active player told you what was actually happening before the spin started. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think a salary cap actually fixes your team? Or do you think the problem is your owner? Drop it in the comments. I want to see where fans stand on this. I am the anonymous ML Beer. Subscribe. It only gets more important from here.